Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We also thank you all for sparing your valuable time to attend this session. My name is Ajay Agrawal, and I am the sales head at Scope T&M Private Limited, a leading T&M company in India. On behalf of Scope, we also thank Spark Group for giving us opportunity to conduct this seminar. Today is our fifth day of presentation. In last 4 days, we have covered topics on LCM, DCRM, partial discharge, and yesterday about SCADA solutions. And our next 2-day sessions will be on CFL and TWFL. Today, we are presenting basics of batteries and battery bank discharge testing by our product specialist head, Mr. Nilare, with his colleague Aritra Das. As you know, battery is a primary component of a substation or switchyard DC control system. We will learn more about batteries and testing available to ensure that the battery is healthy. If you have any questions during the session or during the presentation, please type them into the chat box in your control panel. We will try to answer them during the presentation or will pick questions at the end of the presentation. A recorded version of this webinar will be available after the session ends. I'm handing over to Aritra for detailed session. Over to you, Aritra. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay sir, for the introduction. I believe I am audible to all. So today the topic is battery bank discharge testing. The agenda is first the introduction we will cover, the basics of the battery. Then we will show the configuration, the basic terminologies of the battery, the health degradation, why the degradation of the batteries is happening, how we are doing the health analysis of the battery. Then we will tell you how the discharge or the capacity test we are conducting, and then we will show you the product. What is our product? That is the Blue Series through which we are conducting the discharge test. And lastly, we are having the Q&A session. So what is battery? Battery, as we all know, it is an electrical device which converts the stored chemical energy into electrical energy. So each of the cell contains the positive electrode, that is the anode, and the negative electrode, that is the cathode. In between that, a separator is there so that the short circuit is not happening of the two electrodes. And the electrolytes are there so that the chemical reaction will happen, and we are having the current will flow from positive to negative terminal of the battery. So this is much like a battery, but in this case, we are not telling it is a battery. That is why the cross mark is there. This is we are calling a cell. The applications of the batteries are everywhere, starting from the power utility to telecom, to hospitals, the data centers, the industries, in power backups, also in case of electrical vehicle supplies and the energy storage. Everywhere we can see the batteries, the application of the battery. Now there are two types of batteries. One is the primary type battery, which are non-rechargeable, so it cannot be reused. And the other one is the secondary type of batteries, which can be rechargeable types. Okay, so the example of the primary type batteries are the alkaline batteries or the zinc carbon batteries. And example of the secondary type batteries are lithium ion type batteries. Okay, nickel cadmium type batteries are there. Also, you are having lead acid type batteries. So these are the examples of the secondary type batteries. Now, what is a cell? As I have explained earlier in the slide, that a cell is nothing but the unit which is having the positive and the negative electrode, and in between that the electrolyte is there. And this is a cell, and whenever we are connecting the cells, a number of cells in series, we are getting the battery string. And whenever we are connecting a number of battery strings in parallel, we are getting the battery bank. So this is the basic concept of the cell, string, and the battery bank. Now, how the configuration is done. In case of series, for example, suppose 2-volt cell is there. There are 6 number of 2-volt cells we are connected in series. So the effective voltage will be 6 into 2, that is the 12-volt series. Now, if the rated current is I, if we do the series connection, the current never changes. The current will be I, constant. In case of parallel connection, for example, we are having 2 12-volt batteries whose current is I. Now, if we do the parallel connection, the voltage remains constant, but the current is doubled. Now, in case of series parallel configuration, like in battery banks, however we are doing the connection, same, we are having 2-volt cell, 6 numbers, another 2-volt cell, 6 numbers, we are connecting it in parallel. So we are getting 12-volt is the output voltage, and the output current is twice that of I, that is the 2I. So that is how exactly the configuration, series parallel configurations are done. Now, if we are talking about the battery bank, in case of battery bank specification, the 2 important parameters are the battery bank voltage and the battery bank capacity. The voltage, battery bank voltage, is the cell voltage into number of cells which connect in series in the battery bank. That is how we are getting the battery bank voltage. For example, if the cell voltage is 2 volt and we are having 110 number of cells in series, so we are getting the total voltage is 220 volt, 2 into 110. The capacity is measuring the cell capacity into number of cells connected in parallel. So generally we know the unit of the battery bank capacity is in ampere hour. Now you can see in the picture, in the red highlighted zone, the battery details are there. Sorry, the cell details is there. Now the cell voltage is 2 volt. Okay, that is the rated voltage. 420 ampere hour is the battery capacity. We are having the type of the voltage, that is the C10. And we are having the ECV, that is the electrical critical voltage, that is 1.85 volt. So for example, if the battery capacity is, as said, 420 ampere hour and the type of battery is C10, so the discharge current can be calculated with 420 ampere hour divided by the 10 hours. That is the C10 denotes the rated discharge time, and this is the rated capacity. So for C10 type batteries, the rated discharge current will be 42 amps. Now same for the C20 type battery, here the rated discharge time is 20 hours. So we are getting the rated discharge current 21 amps. And for the C5 batteries, it will be 84 amps. ECV, the electrical critical voltage, is, if it is the voltage beyond this, the cell will go into the dip discharge mode. So this is very essential while you are doing the battery discharging test. It is a very important parameter for that test. Some basic terminologies. That is, the first one is percentage efficiency. Now in the picture, you see the blue indication is the discharge current in amps. The violet indication is the time required to fully discharge the battery in hours, and the white one is the percentage efficiency. Now, in condition 1, we are doing the discharge in rated current with rated time, and we are getting the 100% capacity. Now in condition 2, we have seen the discharge current is getting increased, and because of that, the time is getting reduced, but we are not getting the same efficiency. In condition 3, condition 4, up to condition 10, we have seen the current is very high when we are doing the discharge test, and the time is relatively very, very low. And we can see the efficiency, it has been gradually decreased to your 50%. So it is absolutely not recommended to do the discharge test in current that is the beyond the rated current capacity. So it is always recommended to do the discharge in the rated current capacity. Now the concept of charging, one is the bulk charging and one is the float charging. Whenever we are connecting the battery in charging mode, first we see the voltage will gradually increase in a stable voltage or in a nominal voltage. And after that, the voltage will be continuous. This is in the constant voltage, you can see the charging is going on. So initially, when the current, when the voltage was relatively lower in case of charging, we can see at constant current, the battery is charging. For that, the voltage is increasing. Now, when the voltage is increasing and getting into a, you can say stable value, after that, we are charging the battery at constant voltage. Okay, so the voltage remains here constant and the full charge is maintained. So what is state of charge? The state of charge is defined as the present charge of the battery with respect to the battery, new battery, which is having the total charge. So you can see in this picture, when the 100% state of charge is there, the voltage is 12.6 plus. Okay. Now, if we are discharging the battery, the state of charge is going down, and based on that, the voltage is going down as well. And in the red zone, you can see when the state of charge is in 0%, the voltage is 10.5 volt. Now, in the earlier slide, what I have explained, the ECV, that is the electrical critical voltage, this is your 10.5 volt is the electrical critical voltage. Beyond this value, the battery may get in the dip discharge mode. What is state of health? The state of health is the present capacity of the battery with respect to the new or the brand new cell capacity of the cell capacity. So that is the ratio. Ratio is the present charge level and the newly cell charge level. Sorry, capacity level. So in case of brand new cell, you can see the state of charge is 100% and the state of health is also 100%. Now, after some usage, or in case of old batteries, we can see the state of health is gradually reduced. Now, 90% is the state of health here. The 10% part is we are calling the dud or the unusable part, which cannot be reused. In that case, the SOC, that is state of charge, though it is showing 100%, but the state of health is reduced. And for the degraded cell, the state of health will be continuously reducing. The dud part will continuously increasing. Internal resistance. So whenever we are connecting the battery in the load, we are getting the terminal potential difference, but that is the summation of the EMF and the lost volt. Now the battery we know is having the resistance, its self-resistance, we are calling it the internal resistance. And because of the internal resistance, we are having this lost volt. Now, this is a point we need to check, that if the internal resistance of the battery is getting increased. For the relatively new batteries, they are very low, but for the used batteries, the internal resistance is getting increased. Now, if the internal resistance increases, automatically the capacity of the battery will be reduced. Self-discharge. Self-discharge for the secondary batteries or the dischargeable batteries, self-discharge is a very common point. This occurrence is whenever you are even not connecting the battery into any load, but the chemical reaction inside the battery will continuously happen. And because of that, the battery will get self-discharged. Now, this is, you can see the internal resistance. When the internal resistance increases, okay, gradually, the self-discharge in percentage also increases. And as I have said, the effective battery capacity in percentage is getting reduced. The depth of discharge. The depth of discharge is defined as the amount of a battery's capacity that has been used. Now, most of the manufacturers will specify a maximum DOD value for your optimized performance. Now, a fully discharged battery will have shorter reusable lifespan. What is round trip efficiency? Round trip efficiency is the ratio of the energy recovered from the battery and the energy which is getting input, the input energy into the device. So in the charging process, we know, for example, you can see in the picture 100 watt is the input energy. Now, in case of discharge, the energy is 80 watt. Okay, so some amount of energy is consumed by the battery or the cell himself, around 20 watt. So the ratio of this output energy and the input energy capacity is known as the round trip efficiency. Specific gravity. The definition of specific gravity is the weight of the electrolyte with respect to the ratio of the weight of the electrolyte and the ratio of the equal amount of water that is defined as the specific gravity. Now, in case of battery, if you see in the picture, when the battery is 80% charged, the specific gravity is just below 1.15. Here, the sulfuric acid is around 18.5%. And if you are going up to 100%, after 100% charge, you can see the specific gravity just above 1.25, and the sulfuric acid content is 36%. So the specific gravity doesn't have to be lower or upward than 1.25. So we need to check the specific gravity in between 1.1 and the 1.25. So that is applicable for your lead acid batteries. Now, what are the conditions and the reasons for battery degradation? First one is overcharging. Now, whenever we are doing overcharging of the battery, at the good condition, when you can see in the first picture where the SOC, that is the state of charge, is between 0 to 1, okay, the battery is in good condition. After that, as per the OEM recommendation, the float voltage can be 20% above the nominal voltage. So it is the state of charge is automatically up to 1.2, from 1 to 1.2. That is the state of charge. Now, beyond that, if the overcharging is happening, the SOC, that is the state of charge, will increase further. If it is increased further, then there will be some lithium deposition will start to happen. I'm making an example of the lithium-ion battery. And after that, beyond that, the SOC goes in this range for 1.4 to 1.6. Okay, in this range, the anode and the cathode decomposition will start to happen. And beyond that, the blast or the electrical failure of the battery will happen. So this is the condition of overcharging. Number 2 is shorting. So if accidentally the battery terminals are shorted, then a very high amount of current will flow in very short time. Third is the self-discharge. So as I've explained, the secondary batteries are having this common feature, self-discharge, in which the chemical reaction will automatically happen, though you are not connecting the load into the battery. And because of this self-discharge, we need to regulate the charging and discharging cycle of the battery. So this is very important for the rechargeable or the secondary type batteries. Now sulfation, why the sulfation is happening? So if the battery is getting overheated, or it is, you can say the battery is at temperature above than the 75 degrees centigrade room temperature, the sulfation will occur. And because of sulfation, it is a very natural process for the old batteries we can see in the substation. If the battery is getting old, the sulfation is a very common occurrence. Now, because of this, the terminals of the battery is getting corroded. And if the sulfation is like over sulfation is occurring, then it ultimately leads to your grid corrosion. And in case of grid corrosion, so it is like the terminal of the battery we need to replace, or we can clean it up. Next is your capacity loss. The capacity loss, in the earlier slides, I have explained the depth of discharge, that is the DOD, and the round trip efficiency. So if the DOD and the round trip efficiency is decreasing, the capacity is also getting decreased. Capacity of the battery is getting reduced. So you can see in this picture, if the DOD is 20%, the remaining capacity of the battery is around 50%. When it is 80%, and the remaining capacity of the battery is around 20%. And if the 100% DOD, that is the depth of discharge, has occurred, then there is no remaining capacity of the battery. In this condition, we can say the battery is a dead battery. Now, because of the overcharging or the sulfation, we know the internal overheating of the battery is occurring. Because of the heating, the protective layer starts to break down, and consecutively the layers, each of the layers are breaking down, like the electrolyte breaks down into flammable gases. For that, the separator, which separates the two electrodes, it will also melt. And if the separator melts, there will be a cause of short circuit. And for that, the anode and cathode breaks down and leads to an ultimate electrical failure. So it is very important to control the heating, internal heating of the battery. So as per different utility guidelines, or as per different IEEE guidelines, the utilities are following different schedules, starting from your daily schedule to yearly schedule. And in some special cases, they are maintaining the special schedules as well. So there are some tests they are performing to check the condition of the battery. So number one is sulfation and grid corrosion, that I have already explained. We can also check the electrolyte level. So if the electrolyte level is going downwards, the battery will be dried out. The specific gravity and pH is also important to, as you know, in case of lead acid batteries, the electrolyte pH is very important to check the acidity. So if it is going dilute or more dilute, then there will be problem inside the batteries. The foreign objects, ingression or deposition can increase your internal resistance of the battery. So that that is also checked with the help of battery resistance, internal resistance. We can also check the pilot cell reading, the cell string and bank voltage. So cell string and bank voltage, it is important to check whether the capacity is your 100% or if it is getting reduced. The cell temperature and the ambient temperature is also monitored. So if you go to the battery bank, it is observed that the temperature is always constant in the battery room. We can also check the charger output current and the voltage. The condition of ventilation is also important, because we know that the gas, some gaseous effect is there inside the battery. Hydrogen gas will start to form inside the battery. So for that only the ventilation is required. And for that, the condition of ventilation is very important. The DC float current and voltage is checked, and also the DC earth leakage current. Now, the other parameters like the state of current, state of charge, state of health, the DOD, these things I have already explained. So I think I don't need to explain it further. Now, what are the do's and don'ts? Now, if we consider battery as a living being, so they are always having an urge. So for suppose the battery, if it is, if you need to check the electrolyte level of the battery, because if the electrolyte level is going down, then the battery will be dried out. So that is why you need to maintain the electrolyte level. Now, don't always put the battery in float charge, because it needs a change. Whenever you are doing the charging, initially the voltage has to be risen in a nominal value. So that is why the boost charging is required on that. After that, you can charge it in the float mode. Also, don't put the battery charger always in a boost mode, because it will increase the overcharging, and gradually because of the overcharging, the overheating of the batteries will be there. Also, the efficiency of the battery needs to be checked in regular interval. So because it is your service assurance. Whenever you are doing the discharge, don't put the battery bank voltage below the ECV, because that is the lowest point of the battery bank, beyond which the battery bank will go into the discharge mode. So don't put the voltage below the ECV while doing the discharge test. So for the condition assessment of the battery, what are the tests conducted? The visual inspection for the cracks, leaks, and corrosion. So you can check physically, or with the help of human eyes, you can detect these cracks or leaks. For float current, clamp-on meter is available on the market. The ripple current, that is the ripple content if present in the battery, so that can be also checked with the help of clamp-on meter. The temperature measurement can be either, you can say the temperature can be measured through temperature probes, the temperature sensors, or you can also use the IR camera. So if there are some, hot spots are there inside the battery, you can also check with the IR camera. To check the specific gravity, we are having the hydrometers, which will indicate the value of the specific gravity. For internal resistance or impedance testing, we are having the battery impedance or resistance tester. They are available in the market. For the battery discharge testing, it is battery loading units are there. And for the DC earth leakage check, we are having the DC earth fall locators. So these are the tests generally conducted in the substation, and these are the equipments you need to use to conduct the test. So how we are doing the discharge testing? So one equipment of ours is there, that is the blue series we are telling. It's the electronic battery loading unit through which we are doing the battery discharge testing. Now through our blue series, we are doing this, you can say percentage efficiency, capacity, or the discharge test. So what is basically this capacity or discharge test? This is the only form of test to determine the actual capacity of the battery. IEEE guidelines, IEEE has the separate guidelines for the different types of batteries. For flooded lead acid, we are having IEEE 450 guidelines. For the VRLA type batteries, IEEE 1188 guideline is there. And for the nickel cadmium batteries, the IEEE 1106 guideline is there. So what are the importances of this capacity or the discharge test? So the importance is the determine the predictable life curve of the battery. What is the life remaining of the battery that it will determine. You can always know with the help of discharge test when to replace a cell or string or even a bank if it needs to be replaced. Now, with the help of discharge test, it is also possible to locate the weak cells and the faulty intercell connectors. So this is actually this capacity or the discharge test is the accurate and a proven test method to check the healthiness of the battery bank and improve the life of the battery bank. Now, as per the IEEE guidelines, IEEE has said there are two types of test methods to carry out the discharge test. One is your constant current mode. The other one is constant power mode. Now, to understand the constant current mode, you can see the cell rating is there. It is it was previously available in the earlier slide. So we are having 2-volt cell voltage. The total battery bank capacity is 420 ampere hour. The type of the battery is C10. That is the rated discharge time is 10 hours. Okay, and the ECV is 1.85 volt. Now, how we are calculating the discharge current? That is the total battery bank capacity 420 ampere hour divided by the rated discharge time, that is the 10 ampere hour. So for C10, the rated discharge current will be 42 amps. For C20, the 21 ampere will be the discharge current. This is the constant discharge current I am talking about. And for the C5 type, the constant discharge current will be 84 amps. So with the help of constant current, we are getting the capacity of the battery. IEEE has also said the constant power mode also. And some of the manufacturers are also giving the constant resistance method. But IEEE has not tell anything about this test method. So that is why, as per the IEEE guidelines, the constant current is the best and proven method to carry out the battery discharge capacity. So what are the parameters to be monitored during the discharge test? One is the discharge time, the discharge current, the battery bank or the string voltage, each individual cell voltage, we need to also check the temperature rise, and if there are some physical abnormalities are happening during the discharge test. Now, to understand how the discharge process is happening, here is the picture of in the x-axis you can see the state of charge is there, and in the y-axis we are having the voltage, that is the battery voltage. Now, when the state of charge is around 100%, you can see the bank voltage, that is the battery voltage, is just above 4.2. Okay, so that is the float voltage. That is around the SOC, that is the state of charge is 100%. Now, whenever we are carrying out the discharge test, so you can see when the discharge process is about 80%, the voltage is gradually lowering very, you can say, in an exponential way. Okay, and in the after the 20%, the same exponentially where the voltage is decreasing. Now, in between the 80% and the 20% discharge mode, the voltage is gradually decreasing in more of a very linear way. Okay, so this is how exactly the discharge process of the battery is happening. And during the discharge process, if you are getting any abnormal curves, except this signature, so you can also say the battery is not in a good condition, or there are some problems in the battery. Now, for the different types of batteries, you can see the graph is generally different, but the nature of the graph, or the nature of the curve, is almost same for all the types of batteries. So it is not changing. Now, beyond the rated discharge, we are also having the accelerated discharge facility. Now, to understand what is accelerated discharge, you can see this in the graph, in the curve, sorry, the 1C. 1C denotes we are doing the discharge in rated current capacity, rated current. 10C is 10 times then that of rated current. And based on that, we are having up to 43 times of rated current. We are doing the accelerated discharge. Now, if you see the graph in 1C, you can see the rated discharge is happening and the battery bank capacity is maximum for this case. But the same battery bank we are discharging on 10C, that is the 10 times of rated current, 20 times of rated current, and up to 43 times of rated current. Now, you can just compare the discharge capacity, that is the rated discharge capacity, and the 43 times of rated current discharge capacity. So you will see there is a certain difference in the battery bank capacity. So it is always recommended that whenever you are doing the discharge test, you need to set the discharge current and the discharge time. So based on the discharge current, you will do the discharge test. And in the accelerated discharge, you are not getting the full capacity of the battery. So there are some test parameters. You need to select while you are doing the discharge test. So you need to put some values while doing the discharge test. One is the cell voltage, one is the string voltage, one is the discharge time, and one is the discharge capacity. That is the battery bank capacity. So you need to put these values whenever you are doing the test. And when one of these parameters, for example, if the cell voltage is reached while doing the discharge, for example, I'll say that if we are having a 2-volt cell and you have like put the value of that cell is 1.8 volt. So beyond that, beyond 1.8 volt, you can stop the discharge process, because beyond that the cell will be in deep discharge mode. But in cell voltage, if it is going, below the if it's 1.8 volt, you cannot stop, and you can also resume the test. But in case of bang voltage or the discharge time or the discharge capacity it is achieved, you need to stop the discharge test, because beyond this the battery bank will be going in the deep discharge mode, which is not really recommended. So this is our blue series, that is the electronic battery loading unit, through which we are doing battery discharge testing. So this particular unit is designed as per the IEEE guidelines. The following parameters it will display: the string voltage, the discharge current, the discharge capacity, and the discharge time. These are the parameters this blue will display. Now, regarding the discharge process, if any one of the parameters are going beyond the value, example for suppose the string cutoff voltage for 220 voltage battery bank system, we have put the terminal end voltage beyond 198 volt, it will be the battery discharge process will be shut down. So string cutoff voltage, if it is achieved, then it will go in the auto shutdown mode. So if the one of these conditions, one of these four conditions is achieved, then this blue will automatically shut down the discharge process. So this program is there. Now, it is very important whenever you are doing the battery discharge test, you need to find out you need to track the weak cells because of which your battery bank capacity is getting reduced. To track those weak cells, we are having the CellMon, that is the cell monitoring unit, which will do the real-time monitoring of each individual cell. The features are like, it is a portable unit. It is having wheels, so you can carry this unit wherever you are required. The single unit is the dedicated unit for control and the loading purpose. Now, if you are having a very high, you can say the discharge capacity, the battery discharge capacity is very high. In that case, we need to do the parallel connection. Parallel connection means this unit, this blue unit, it will be connected in another blue unit. So if you are doing the parallel connection of the two blue units, the voltage is getting same, but the current, the rated current will be higher. So to discharge the higher, you can say battery bank capacity, we are having the parallel connection to achieve the higher current. Now, whenever you are doing the parallel connection, one unit can be act as a master unit through which it will control the discharge process, and the other unit will be remain as a slave unit. So the work of the slave unit is nothing but to you can say achieve the higher current, but the control will be done with the help of the master unit. And our instrument is having inbuilt memory, and we can also communicate with PC with the help of USB. For suppose when you are doing the battery discharge testing, suppose the power failure will happen. Now, whenever the power failure will happen, so it will automatically resume when the power will come again. So you don't need to start, you don't need to restart the process. It will automatically resume the test where it was ended. So from that moment, it will start again. So this auto resume facility is available in our battery discharging unit. And also we are having the wireless communication. Now, with the help of Cellmon in the earlier slides that I have mentioned, this Cellmon unit to track the weak cells, the main unit, and this Cellmon unit can be communicated in a wireless communication is there to connect these two units. And through that, we will check the individual cell and we will calculate, we will measure what is the individual cell voltage. So dedicated software is, we are also dedicated software. With the help of this software, you can also see from, if you're having the laptop or PC, you can see this histogram mode is there to check what is the condition of the each cells. Okay, so in this picture particularly, you can see all are green. So that green means that are actually the cells are healthy. So if the cell is not healthy, it will be, the color will be red. So this histogram facility is available in our instrument. It will check each and individual health of the each and individual cells. Our main unit, that is the blue unit, is protected also against the supply voltage variation, the over temperature, and for the overload protection, we are having the fuses. So these are the protections we are having in the blue. So I think this is the overall presentation, and we have mostly covered the basics of the battery and how we are doing the discharge test. So right now, I believe it is a time for the question and answer session.
Yeah, thank you, Aritra. There are lots of questions have been asked by various people,
Okay.
and some of the questions has been already answered, and some more questions will be taking now into the question answer session. Okay, so I will pick up some of the questions which has been asked by the people.
Okay.
Possibly, I will tell you that people that will not be taking the questions like what is the why gel battery is flop, or what is the battery ideal impedance of a specific type of a cell, because these why gel battery is flop or which one is hit, that will prefer not to answer in this platform. That's the reason we do not want to take that one. And when it comes to the ideal battery impedance, so if we talk about the ideal battery impedance, that means it is as we can understand, as we have seen during the presentation, that whatever is the battery, they should have the minimum impedance, internal impedance. That is the thumb rule, as a rule of thumb we can say. But when it comes to the actual value, it is always recommended to refer the OEM, because the test result or the test reports of the manufacturer will be mentioning those values. We can give you some values as per the general practice or something like that, okay, whatever is the value available. But when it comes to the exact value for that manufacturer, it cannot be told just like that. You will be getting I can give you a thumb rule, but or the thumb value, a reference value, but it cannot be the exact value. So it is better not to answer those questions. Then there was few more questions, that what are the most preferred type of battery for a solar power plant application or similar type of different application. People have asked, okay, what is the most preferred type of battery? So in my opinion, Aritra, what is your opinion on this one? Is it like that it is totally depending upon the budget availability, or it is the design parameter of the thing? What do you feel?
In the most solar plants, if we observe, the batteries they are using are the you can say lead acid batteries they are using, and
so it is majorly the as per the availability design parameter, and whatever is
yes.
the budget, based on that, whether to use NiCad or the maintenance fee VRLA battery that you are talking. So
Yes,
it is majorly depending upon the cost, isn't it?
Yes.
There was one question asked by Mr. Rajendra Rao Lade, which he has asked, shall we consider the round trip efficiency same as percentage efficiency? So Rajendra sir, it is something like that round trip efficiency is something based on two parameters, as explained by Aritra in the earlier slide. That when we are talking about the round trip efficiency, it is two parameters. First of all, the battery, when I am purchasing the fresh battery, the new one, at that time we are considering that as a full 100% efficient battery, the perfect condition. But after uses for some period or some cycling, one time will reach when battery will not be able to hold its charge. So over a period of time, the battery performance goes down, and one fine day we say, okay, it is no more usable. So that is totally gone. Now it is reducing, or the state of health of that battery is going down. So that is something happening during the round trip efficiency. Means every charging, some part of the cell or the battery bank is getting damaged. Day one, it is 100% healthy. Last day, it is almost, we can say, 100% is damaged, if we say like that. So there is a gradual degradation has taken place. It is not like that one day it was 100, the very next day it has gone to 0. It is not like that. So slowly it goes down. So round trip efficiency is having two parts. One is that this how much percentage on every charging is getting damaged. So that is one part of the round trip efficiency. To understand that, people is measuring the round trip efficiency as the amount of energy given to the battery bank or to the cell to charge it to 100%. Let's say in today I am giving 100 watt for charging of this cell, and when I am discharging or utilizing that cell, how much energy I am getting back. Let's say it is 75 watt or 80 watt, whatever it may be. Now where that 20 watt has gone, that wattage has gone during the charging. Some charge has taken, it is a chemical to electrical, one phenomena has changed place, and once again chemical to electrical. So electrical to chemical and to electrical, these two steps are happening. During that time, some energy is getting dissipated as, once again, two part. One is internal part, internal resistance, which is getting as a heat dissipation. So at the time of charging, some heat dissipation used to take place, or heat generation used to take place, and at the time of discharging, once again some heat dissipation takes place. So if we consider that heat, dissipated heat, and this charging, then I will be able to understand that 80 watt I have got as a discharge amount, plus the heat dissipated. Let's say it has 12 watt during the discharge, and at the time of charging, let's say it is 8 watts. So 8 plus 12 plus 80 is 100 watt, which I have charged. So that is the round trip efficiency. And percentage efficiency of a cell is the usage condition or the application. The percentage efficiency can be 100% if I am using the cell as per the recommended practice. So here I am correlating with the other questions, that what are C10, C20, all these parameters. So if it is a C10 battery, let's say it is a 400 ampere hour battery and rated as C10. So that means I will be able to discharge this battery. Recommended discharge time is 10 hours with a discharge current of 40 ampere. So 40 ampere multiplied by 10 hour is 400 ampere hour. Now, when we are talking about 400 ampere hour and C10, that means recommended use is 40 ampere I should take. But if I can take lesser than 40 ampere or higher than 40 ampere. If I am taking than 40 ampere, so I am not using the battery to its full level or full recommended level or the full capacity. So there I am not decreasing its percentage efficiency. But when I am draining the battery at much faster level, higher than 40 ampere, let's say 60 ampere or 100 ampere, then what will happen? As shown in the one of the slide, Aritra, if you can take to that slide where we have seen the with the different sea level, how the total ampere hour capacity is going down, or the percentage efficiency, that chart, if you can bring it on the presentation file, so that will be better. Can you make it, Aritra? So in that one, what will happen, sir, that this percentage efficiency will be coming down, because when I am bringing or discharging the battery, here it is. So when I am discharging the battery at a much higher rate, so what will happen? The things are coming down very fast. So here higher C, 1C means as per the rated one I am discharging. But when I am discharging it at 10 times or 20 times or 40 times or 43 times, then I am not getting the expected result. I am getting lesser capacity actual. So the percentage efficiency of this thing is going down. So that is the relation between the percentage efficiency and earlier I have explained you the round trip efficiency. So hope I could clear you, sir. And when it comes to the other questions asked by the various people, here they have asked the C10 or C5, explain once again. So that is the thing. That means when we are talking about the whatever the battery rating, in that one, I believe it will be available. Yeah, it is available over here. It is mentioned C10. So when it is mentioned as a C10, here, let me change the color so that you can understand it. So here it is mentioned as C10. So when we are talking about C10, and here it is mentioned as 420 ampere hour. So this battery is supposed to operate in this fashion. It should be discharged in 10 hours with a maximum current of 42 ampere. That is the rated current and rated time duration for which it should be. That is the ideal condition. So that is C10. If the same battery would be mentioned as C20, it should be considered as the second line. Here, 20 hour, then it will be 21 ampere. So that the 20 hour multiplied by 21 ampere, so 20 multiplied by 21, it is 420. 10 multiplied by 40 ampere, 42 ampere, it is 420. So multiplication of current and time will give me the total ampere hour. So that is what is the ampere hour, how it is calculated. That was one question somebody has asked. I have forgotten the name. So that is the thing. Similarly, if it is a C5, so whatever is mentioned like this C5 or C10 or C20, sometimes you will find it C8 or some other values. C5 also are available. So in whatever is this number followed along with the C, it is the number of hours. For that much hour, within that much hour, that it should be drained, that whatever rated ampere hour, that should be drained over that much of hour. So remaining is the current. So if it is mentioned 420 ampere at 20 hours, I should, so it is very clear, I have to draw a current of 21 ampere for a duration of 20 hours in that fashion. There was one question, how to select the lead acid or VRLA battery for substation and EOT crane application, by Mr. Balakrishnan. Once again, we are will prefer not to answer this, because the application wise recommendation, this is not the platform. So that's the reason we are not answering. There was one question by Mr. Kaushal Kishore. Please tell how we decide when to put on float and when to put on boost during regular maintenance activity. It is not the maintenance activity, sir. Actually, if as a human being, I will not, or you, neither you nor me will be prefer to eat or to do the same thing, exactly same thing, day in and day out. So we also require a change, some change. So I will not prefer to take dal roti every day. I'll be looking for biryani at least for a change. So float charge is the condition when I have charged the battery has reached to its 100% charge level. Now, due to the internal resistance of the battery, there will be some internal circulation, and if I leave the charger, remove the charger from the charging system, from the battery bank, so what will happen? The battery voltage will be coming down, 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 down in that fashion. So I need to keep the battery banking to a trickle charge mode so that it can maintain its position, or the 100% charge it should be able to maintain. So from that point, we are talking about the float charge. But in between, we need, battery also requires a change. 100% throughout the day in and day out, it is monotonous for them, float charge. So let the battery go down for some time, or perform a discharge test, and immediately after discharge test, you go for a boost charge, so that in the boost charge, we are giving the constant current, and first way we are charging the battery. And once the cell voltages or the bank voltage is reaching to its level, then slowly we are shifting from boost charge to the float charge. So that time, from the constant current, we will be keep going to the constant voltage mode, and at that time we will be giving a constant voltage from the battery charger instead of constant current. And whatever is the voltage difference between the cell terminal voltage and the battery output voltage, so there we will be making the thing, and battery bank will be coming slowly, and at the same level it will one day match in one point. So that is the how we are maintaining the battery charging cycle as the float and boost in that fashion. Mr. Rajendra Lade has asked one more question. What about the maintenance free battery? This is a very good question, I will say, because a lot of people, because the name suggests it is maintenance free battery. Now we have to understand what is actually maintenance free. The battery is not maintenance free. What then? Why it is named so? Because earlier day in the original batteries, when it was there, it was having the lead acid. So we need to maintain the pH level of the battery. We need to maintain the specific gravity I discussed during the presentation. We need to maintain those parameters. So for maintaining the pH value and the specific gravity to the specific level, we need to put the electrolytes, maintain the electrolyte level. So we need to put the water, distilled water into the battery. So that was the maintenance earlier people were doing. Now when the seed lead acid batteries came, SLA, and followed by VRLA, valve regulated lead acid. So those batteries became maintenance free, because earlier maintenance what we were required to do to put that electrolyte or the water extra, that maintenance was no more required. So that is the point we are talking the maintenance free. But these batteries, whether it is lithium ion or any other, even the most modern battery, LiFePO4, lithium phosphate batteries, lithium iron phosphate batteries, even they are not the maintenance free. They are having the maintenance schedules. You need to do the other maintenance, but you need not have to put the electrolyte, because you not have that option. That's the point. It was told as the maintenance free. There is nothing other than that maintenance free. You need to maintain the voltage, you need to maintain the charging condition, you need to see what is the state of health, what is the battery capacity remaining, all these things. So that is actually not maintenance free. None of the batteries are maintenance free from that angle. Only maintenance free is that putting the electrolyte, that maintenance is tension free. We are tension free from that on. That's the reason the word came into the surface, that maintenance free batteries. There was one more current question. Mr. Kamal Dora, he has asked, is it recommended to charge the VRLA battery in boost mode, or it's better charge VRLA in float mode only? I do hope if you have listened to this, my earlier answer of float charge and boost charge. So there it is the same topology, or the same methodology is used for either of the battery. There was one question from Mr. Satyajit Bahera. Arithro, if you want to answer. If a few batteries are malfunction or damaged, can we connect new batteries directly into the bank, or we need to separate boost charge to the new ones before putting them into the bank? So first of all, when I am replacing only one cell into the bank, it is recommended to charge that cell first, let it come to the healthy level as that of the bank, other bank cells condition. Then replace the old cell with the new cell. That is the recommended practice. Is there any standard of battery testing which gives limits? This was the question asked by Mr. Ajay Sonare. So I will say, as I have told you earlier also, none of the standards unfortunately is talking about the limit, because every battery manufacturer, every cell manufactured of a specific type is having separate set of data than that of the other type of cell manufactured by the same manufacturer. So let's say if I take manufacturer A manufacturing 2-volt battery, though it is 2-volt, the actual components, design, everything is different than some other manufacturer of that same specification B. Manufacturer B will be having some set of other data, because design and other things is different. As you have experienced already, the one manufacturer's cell of the same rated cell is different looking than the other manufacturer. So it is the each manufacturer has to give the limits specific for that cell or that battery. But there are some common limits, like the how much I can charge extra. Generally, it is maintained in between 10 to 20% higher than the rated. So if cell is rated at 2 volt, generally we can go up to 2.2, or in some cases up to 2.4 volt. That once again, manufacturer is deciding whether to limit it at 10% higher or 20% higher or 15% higher. But IEEE says, or IEC says it is generally in between 10 to 20%. Same is the case. What is the ECV? ECV is generally kept at 85% to 90%, any value in between that, depending upon the manufacturer. They are deciding what is the ECV. Generally, it is 85% to 90% of the rated voltage. So like 2 volt, if the battery is 2 volt, then it will be in between, somewhere in between 85 means 1.7 volt to 1.8 volt. So that will be the ECV. As we have seen in this battery, the specific example here in the display, we can see, though it is a 2 volt battery, they have mentioned 1.85 volt ECV. So it is for this specific manufacturer, they have gone only for 7.5% lower than the standard rated volt. So it is much lesser as per the standard, but once they have mentioned the ECV as 1.85, it is 1.85. We have to maintain that, we must not go beyond that. Mr. Nitin Chaurasia, he has mentioned, asked about the question on the explanation of C5, C10 and C20 on those things, which we have already explained. Mr. Sumon Barua, he has mentioned salt water testing is the best for testing VRLA battery bank. Sir, that is the cheapest. Yes, that is the most economical and most easily available means. But you cannot say, or you must not say it is the best, because every time IEEE is talking about the battery discharge test should be done with a constant current or constant power. In case of salt water testing, we do not have any control on any of these things. So the current goes on as per its own whims and fancies. We cannot control the current. There is no way we can control the current in a salt water tank. So, and it cannot be, so battery is ultimately getting stressed, unnecessarily stressed. So if we are talking about standard, so it has to be done with a electronic battery loading unit where you can control the current to the precision that IEEE recommends. Now, what to do if you do not follow the things and other things? So it's up to you what you want to follow. We cannot say, but we can talk only about the standard, what standard is talking. There was how to calculate the capacity of battery bank after discharge testing. A formula or guideline for the same was asked by Mr. Amit Biswas. How to calculate the capacity of battery bank? So capacity of battery bank, it is the thing. Whenever if we go into the details, so it is not we are not having that much of time to explain the thing, because battery is a big subject, and if we go for the detailed training, in that one we used to explain each and every aspect of these things, how to calculate. But it can be calculated, yes, very well. There are ways and means. We need to understand how much is the thing, internal resistance, how much is the remaining charge available in the battery, and based on that we can go for the remaining capacity of the battery. The formulas are available and the methods are available. Mr. P. Suman has asked C10 type of battery. That C10, once again, that thing has, hopefully I could clear it in the C5, C10, C20 clarification. So these are the major things what has been asked by the people. So Arithro, is there any other question you want to take up?
Sir, most of the questions were like you have answered, but I think some repeat questions were asked. like if 21 ampere is, this is the question from Mr. Rana Singh. If 21 ampere is drawn from C10 cell of capacity 420 ampere hour, then will it last for 20 hours? So
Hope we have already cleared, or else if you want to repeat, you can repeat once again.
So I guess for particularly this type of question, so if the battery bank capacity is 420 ampere hour, and if you want to discharge, it is a C10 type of battery, then it is always recommended that you should keep the discharge time 10 hours and do the battery bank with the rated discharge current, that is the 42 amps. Don't go for the 20 hour. Will it last for 20 hours? So that is actually not recommended that we do the 20-hour test for the C10 type batteries.
Yeah. Similarly, Mr. P. Suman has asked what is the exact time to allow battery set for discharging. So here, sir, you need to follow the standard or the battery type rating, whatever is mentioned. If it is C10, you discharge time, consider the discharge time as 10 hours. If it is C20, you consider the discharge time as 20 hours. If it is C5, you consider the discharge time as 5 hours, in that fashion. And according to that, you divide the total ampere hour divided by number of hours. So you will be getting how much current you should have. One more question was there, interesting question, as I have just now seen, that whether is that question I have just seen, is electronic battery discharge unit suitable for different voltage level of battery? Yes, sir, good question, and very basic questions. While selecting the exact battery loading unit, you need to see some of the parameters, like what is the total battery bank voltage or the string voltage, what is the total number of cells or individual cell voltage, so, and what is the type of battery. So from that one you will be getting how much is the voltage for which, because every battery loading unit comes with some pre-settings. So one one medicine cannot serve the purpose of everything. Like today we are talking about corona. Here we cannot say that normal doses of, because one of the symptoms of corona is cough and cold, or the breathlessness, or the temperature. So if I take the normal chloroquine sort of thing, or if I am taking the normal cough syrups, or if I take the normal medicines for the high temperature, that will not cure corona. So that is not working. So every bank requires some specific settings. So when we are talking about the electronic battery loading unit, you should be able to set what is the rated voltage of the battery bank. So it should be a selectable one, because there are internally there are lots of what you say is the lot of resistance banks inside the thing. Those are electronically controlled, and as per the voltage level, those internal resistance banks are getting fired, and they are bringing in different time in different series parallel combination, so that the different resistance can be achieved to maintain the constant current. So if your thing is not having the specific setting for that battery bank, you may not get that much of control. So that's the reason you should know what are the battery banks available. Some people are talking, give me the universal bank. Yes, we are also having the universal bank discharge kit. But truly speaking, any utility, whenever we are talking about the thing, so there we are talking only about the zone where we are having the specific part. So like 48 volt for the communication and 220 volt for the control. 90% of the Indian utilities, or at least 80% of the Indian utilities are following this. So why you should pay or purchase a battery loading unit which is equipped to it 12 volt, 24 volt, 36 volt, 48 volt, 80 volt, 110 volt, 220 volt, 380 volt, and all these things. What is my requirement? Why I should pay extra? I must not pay extra. That should be my concern. That whatever I require, I should pay for that one. Why I should pay for the more? So in your specification, while drafting the specification of the battery loading unit, you first check up what are the battery banks available and what are the different types of cells available. C5, C10, all that things available in your substation or in your utility. Once you are getting these two input, then you see how much is the highest current rating for every voltage rating required. Like if I am having a 420 ampere or 960 ampere ampere hour battery bank of 220 volt. So, and those are rated at C10. So I need to have a test kit which you will be having a settings of 220 volt and it should be able to discharge at 96 ampere. So I should ask for a 100 ampere kit with 220 ampere settings, 220 volt settings. So if something is coming extra, I should not be interested for paying for that. Yeah, somebody may give me that maximum 200 ampere kit. Okay, fine. But I should not get settled down at with a kit which is giving 95 ampere or even 90 ampere or lesser than that, because my rated current requirement is 96 ampere. So I should look forward for 96 ampere and more. I should not settle down for anything lesser than that. And also I should not look forward for any other voltage level, whatever is required. Then comes that how many, if I am interested to know the individual cell voltage during the entire discharge process. If I am interested for the entire discharge process, then I have to go for a cell monitoring unit, which is generally offered by all the manufacturers across the globe who are supplying these battery loading units. They are having, like us, it is not like our proprietary product. It is also available with all other manufacturers, similar manufacturers. Now, as we are also not giving it by default, they are also not giving it by default. Everything comes with a cost. It is optional accessory. So you have to add that optional accessory in your specification. You must mention that it should be supplied with the individual cell monitoring unit. So to have that data or to offer the perfect product, I should know how many cells are there available with you. So you must mention what is the cell voltage of your battery bank and how many strings are there or total number of cells available in your bank. Then only I can offer you the best product, exactly suitable product for your exact application. There is one question just now asked by Mr. Rana Singh. Can a 500 ampere hour battery bank can be charged from a 300 ampere hour battery charger? Sir, the question, first of all, if I want to answer in a single word, it is no. But it be yes, depending on what is the charging capacity or charging current requirement for that 500 ampere battery bank. Once I know that, and what is the charger rating of 300 ampere hour battery charger, if the ratings are matching, then I can use temporarily that 300 ampere hour charger also for charging of 500 ampere battery bank. So, Aritro, anything else?
I guess most of the questions are covered. So
Okay, sir. Ajay, you want to tell something?
Yeah, thank you.
It appears that Ajay is having some problem. Ajay,
And
it appears that Ajay is having some
hello.
connectivity issue. So let us carry on. So thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward for seeing you tomorrow once again. Thank you.